All right, welcome to this Stampscapes repair video live stream. Accidentally, well then accidentally, but I was going for an impression of this with StazOn ink on this foil paper, okay, and it didn't print out too much in the interior because, I don't know, I was just going for an impression too fast or something like that, or I just didn't hold it down for the required amount of time, because if you hold down StazOn against this particular foil for too long, it's going to lift the foil as opposed to transferring the ink. So I got a really bad impression down here of that quote stamp. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to cover it up a little bit more with some white pigment ink now that I have allowed my existing white pigment ink to dry and I spray sealed it. Okay, so what we need to do here is go for a little bit more opacity, and we'll attempt to do that with some additional white Brilliance pigment ink. And I'll just do a little bit of a mask here. Let's make it a little bit more varied as far as my cloud paper towel template, okay? All right, and there we go, something like that. I'm using my existing cotton ball because it's a little bit more matted down. The second kind of usage is a little bit better than the first one, but then, you know, after that second time, you pretty much have to use a new cotton ball because it'll be too matted and hard if you try to use it again. So see this template right here, you kind of apply it and you kind of move it around a little bit while you're doing it, just so that it comes out a little bit more, it gives a softer edge and it looks more natural than having kind of a super hard, crisp line around that edge right there. I know that's what templates, you know, you're usually going for with, you know, any kind of template. But a cloud one, I think it looks a little bit softer, more varied, and it seems like it's flowing and moving to me a little bit more when you move the paper towel. It kind of makes sense though, doesn't it? Clouds are in motion. They're not like static things like a, you know, like a building or something like that. So having that little bit of variation, in my opinion, contributes to that real kind of graceful presence that they have. Yeah. Okay, let's vary it a little bit more. This is really even going across there. I'm gonna try to build it up a little bit more on one side. Which isn't a formula. It isn't like you got to build up the right side or something like that. But see this right now? We're starting to kind of eradicate that area in there. Now I'm making this a lot more white than I probably would, but I'm really trying to make that quote stamp, you know, as invisible as I can. I guess it's not really invisible, covered up as I can. Great. Now we went pretty dark here with our clouds because I only have black StazOn and black Brilliance pad. But let's soften up the edge of them a little bit more, okay? This approach, or this scene was supposed to be a real quick scene, but I don't know, it's just like standard length now, you know, with the treatment, the additional treatment of the clouds here. That happens, but I really kind of wanted to develop this piece. I'm always saying that, you know, whatever happens in the course of creating a card or a scene, you just have to kind of stick with it and you know, work through your process, your techniques. You know, add in pigment ink, add in your highlights or something like that, you know, with acrylic paint pens or gel pens. Add in foreground images, you know, over something, you know, to kind of push back something that might have been unexpected or even undesirable. And oftentimes you'll get some really good results. I should be wearing a band-aid right there. I really burnt my finger pretty bad. Looks kind of nasty. My blister, I didn't realize had to come off there. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to introduce more of this white reflected light in the form of the clouds down below here. In the water, okay, so doing those reflections down there like this. And that'll really give the illusion that, you know, this is a body of water and everything's very reflective. It's going to be a pseudo reflection. We'll just kind of do it down here, though. Okay, so this is really, really opaque here. So, and that looks really kind of strange. So what we're going to do is we're going to carry that out to the edge and just say that there's a big, you know, pretty opaque cloud going across the whole scene down below there like this. Just to have it match up over here and over here. Okay, just having it right here looks kind of weird. So we'll just build a foreground cloud right in here. When you do these types of things like this, when you're doing kind of this, I don't know, I guess you can classify it as kind of repair work. You often come up with different looks than you normally would. Sometimes, you know, or oftentimes, for the betterment of the scene, you do things that, oh, I don't know, kind of stretch beyond your existing kind of notion of how an area or object should be treated. And it gets you thinking too, a lot of times. So, I don't know. It breaks you out of a, I don't know, kind of a cycle a lot of times. So I just try to make it kind of a habit. So I like seeing new things all the time when I'm doing my pieces. You know, it's like a, you know, you see it kind of developing right in front of you. I mean, I understand that we're doing it ourselves, but you're not doing it with the same kind of sensibilities that you did previously. Or, you know what I mean? It's not like oftentimes a complete change, but, you know, it's like a, you know, kind of a, maybe an extreme version of something. You know, like on this one, I'm using more white pigment ink than I would normally use. So it's seeing something, you know, a different version of something than you've seen in the past. And then, if you like it, then you can bring that type of, I don't know, whatever sensibility or, you know, whatever technique into future pieces. Or if something happens, you know, again, you'll know what to do. You'll have it kind of in your, I don't know, you'll have that variation in your pocket, you know, that you can dip into. Okay, so I'm adding a lot more white in here on this piece. Coming down here a little bit more. And we're putting my trees in kind of some mist. And I'm going to do that right around in here too, okay? So it's like, you know, kind of fog on the the water's edge, or on the water's surface. Kind of bringing a little bit of continuity between some of the reflections that I had that were a little bit more extreme before. Now, when you're working with things like foils and non-porous surfaces, sometimes you have to kind of build things up a little bit, and you might have to spray seal it, you know. Like on this one, I guess I don't need to spray seal. I sealed this a couple times, but what I'm looking for right here is when I'm applying, I just need to make sure that I'm not removing. Because it's easy when this starts to get built up a little bit to tap into it, but you're really kind of removing what you've already applied. But I think it's working out okay. Right, I'm going to put a little bit, let's see, I didn't come below this cloud reflection. I'm trying to vary this a little bit in here, you know, so that it's not one kind of thickness of cloud, or mist, I guess. So it's clouds up here, and it's reflected cloud down here, but this over here is kind of like a bunch of fog and mist on the lake's surface. Okay, something like that. So it's kind of coming around a little bit. I felt that one of the things, I mean, a better stamp to colored stamp out these clouds and would have been like a darker blue or a medium tone blue, but I didn't have that color in the type of ink that I was using, so I had to go with black. It was a little bit too extreme, I think, for this surface for clouds. I think for the imagery, you know, the black works fine, but for the imagery of clouds, unless we're going for something kind of, you know, I don't know, more extreme, like a Halloween cloud or something like that, or a storm cloud, something of that sort. All right, so I am going to spray seal this a little bit. I'm going to put this little character down here in a little bit of fog as well, like so. All right, so let's spray seal this and let's see what this looks like. Let's see, come up here a little bit more. All right. So there we have it. I think that looks pretty good. A little bit more here. I like this where it's kind of going lighter right here. Still too light, right up, you know, those two. I think the thing I'm fighting right here too is, I guess I'm fighting what I just mentioned. I'm fighting this kind of really dark impression of those clouds, the black. It would have been really great with a brilliance some sort of brilliance, medium tone blue, I think. I think that would have been really great because they do have the metallic kind of iridescent types of colors in their line, and that would have been perfect for this metallic cardstock. Okay, I think that's a little bit better. And let's spray seal this and let's see what we can do to it. All right. Dried and spray sealed. Let's give it a little bit more variation. Now we've made things a lot lighter in here, so we've introduced a lot of, I guess it would be reflected lighting in here. There's a lot of reflected light coming off of the foil itself, but then we have this really opaque, now pretty heavy-handed application of white pigment ink. So what I'm going to do is go in and add some variation into my clouds. Now that that's in there, and we're saying, through the use of all that heavy pigment ink, is that there is, this illuminating force in this scenario. Maybe it's a moon, I don't know, maybe it's a sun, but whatever it is, it's off, screen, so to speak, off page, so that you can go in and add in some pretty light elements then. This white pen could really stand out a little bit too much, just on the page itself, but when we've introduced so much lighting into this scene, I think it's perfectly fine to go in there and use it now. Otherwise, what I mean by that is it stands out a lot otherwise, but now it's just something white against something that's very light instead of white against something that's, quite a bit darker or of a different texture, okay? It's still a little bit of a different texture with all these dots, but it's not standing out in terms of something that's, so different in value, light and dark. Okay, but I'm still going to avoid some of the little bit of a darker area down here. See, it's lighter through these clouds right in here. This is what I usually do too. If there's some things, that I need to really blend in, or, I don't know, kind of de-emphasize that's going on in the background. White pigment ink, okay? Translucency and opacity usually covers it up. Translucent means, you apply that white pigment down and you can still see what's going on through the, through it in many ways, unless you really slather it on like I did here over those, over that black lettering in there. But that in combination with things like these highlights here that are pretty opaque, okay, but still white and still of the same kind of, whatever lighting, can really do a good job on your pieces for kind of pulling them out and sometimes, improving, but also kind of maybe saving in many ways. So this for me is no different. It kind of saved the piece. You don't like something in scenic stamping, you just cover it up. Maybe that maybe that can be like an analogy for other things too, but I don't know. I like the kind of the notion of de-emphasis, instead. Cover up, 10 stone plate did something wrong or something like that. in this case, you know, the the misimpression, impression wasn't desirable, but it's just all kind of part of the process, as it as it turns out. With this piece, you just add on and extend your process. Okay, see that right there? Much more kind of developed clouds, and I'll bring a little bit of this sensibility into this, the reflections. So you see them a little bit down there in the reflections, that bright specular light, or that light specular light. And I'll put a little bit on my tops of my rocks. I had a lighter blue on there, but now that the scene is so much lighter, then again, I think it can take this lighter reflected light on the those rocks down there. So those rocks right in here, they have that little bit of lighting on them now, or a little bit more lighting, I should say. And let's see, I'll put some on my trees. I'll be very minimal with it, though. But it tends to bring them out from the background a little bit more. And I think that should do it there. I think that looks pretty decent in terms of, I don't know, a finished piece from where it was. Let's get this matted off, and we'll take a look at it and see what it looks like formatted. All right, we're formatted here, and I went with silver around on the edge. I felt that, just to kind of, I don't know, create another layer of visual interest in here, especially with that printing of that wording up there down in this area, and all the cover up that was done. Why not go with some silver around on the edge like that? I don't know. I think it was the best choice, though. Anyways, I'm not quite sure. I was thinking about some glossy black around the edge, like it was like a black lacquer type of frame. Okay, but anyways, since this is silver around on the edge, I thought let's go with a couple little stars for a little bit of bling on the scene. All right, so this the clear crystals are kind of a text. I'm going to say a textural match, or I don't know, maybe a color match. Just something nice and twinkly and shiny within the piece. And I'll just go pretty subtle. I'm going to go with my smallest crystals here. glue dots dried already. All right, I think that should do it. So, you know, not a masterpiece or anything like that, but I don't know what pieces are, but you know, it's not bad for pulling out something like this in here. You can see those little stars up there, kind of twinkling like that. But anyways, here's the big cover up right here. We've put everything under a kind of a veil of cloudy mist. Brought that mist down here under the water's surface. A little bit more, you know, light. I didn't want to match this light, you know, down here because it's already really heavy up here. But what I did was I extended the white, you know, from edge to edge like that, just so that it looks like it's a little bit of a closer cloud than this one right here. We've toned down all the clouds up to here too, in terms of the value of them, going over it with the white, making it more of like a, I don't know, maybe a 15 to 20%, 25% gray instead. So that made them a lot softer looking, and I don't know, I think there's a little bit more depth up there in that sky now with the clouds like that. Now, I wouldn't choose to do that because, you know, it's kind of heavy-handed. I really had to lay down kind of a big slathering of that white pigment ink in there. Although, you know, it would be good to know, let's say you have a really big area of clouds. Or, I mean, I guess it could even be like this size, you know, on a page. But, you know, if you're applying this over the top of like a white cardstock or something like that, and you're not having to cover anything up, you're not going to have to apply that much. But this is on the foil, and again, it was over the darkest thing you can possibly cover up, which is black ink, and it's in a pattern too. It wasn't like some kind of branch or something like that. So, you know, lettering like that, you can really tell there's lettering underneath there. So, you know, having to cover it up is just about as heavy-handed of a cover up as we'll usually have to do. But I don't know. I think this is a pretty good look right here, and I think those clouds look pretty natural for as kind of heavy as I applied those inks. And then we have our white pigment ink in there over the top of them to kind of give it a little bit more depth and, I don't know, kind of lighting, I guess, in terms of the reflection. But so you can see this like this. There's a different kind of characteristic on foils between having the page completely illuminated and like that. It looks like, you know, it's like going from, you know, almost daytime or something like that, high noon, and it just gets darker and darker to midnight or something like that. I don't know. I like that look right there. I think it's pretty cool. I really like how it looks like right around there, you know, so depending on which angle someone's, you know, looking at your card that you send to them, you know, I think it's pretty cool to have your card have, you know, kind of a varied, you know, whatever, emotional range, I guess it would be, and mood. Okay, so thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you run into kind of any unexpected types of hiccups with your pieces, my recommendation is just to stick with them and to develop them a little bit more. Go to the extremes of certain things. My thing is the white pigment ink and white paint pens in the past, and it still is, but you can go for like heavier imagery too. You can cover things up. You get, you know, if the lettering is showing through, you can have like a branch kind of hanging over into these areas off to the side, you know, stuff like that. Or you can stamp like a bird over the top of it. It doesn't obscure things so much, but people tend to focus in on kind of subject matter and living things more, you know, and there'll be something closer to us. So it pushes something back visually or attention-wise even more so with that type of approach of layering. Okay, thanks again.